Atani Delali Emmanuel, and here is AM News for today, World Cup morning. I will start off with the Bue Power plant. And well, some of you might be disappointed because the authority on Tuesday finally stopped generating power following its announced cut in generation capacity. Now, the authority earlier complained about the dwindling level of water in the dam, compelling it to limit the generation capacity to an average of about 1.44 million kilowatt hours per day. Now, this means the ongoing power crisis and load shedding exercise could become intense with this latest development. According to the chief executive of the Volta River Authority, Engineer Kirk Kofi, this is not due to the inefficiencies of the handlers of the dam, but simply because the water level has gone below the minimum level. The Deputy Minister of Energy and Petroleum, John Jinapo, also confirmed this development at the Bue Dam. Meanwhile, Deputy Minister of Energy John Jinapo again says government is considering other cheap sources of energy to ensure adequate supply of electricity for development. According to him, coal is one of those options on the table.
We cannot continue to spend 6 million every day buying only light crude oil to power our thermal plant. And so energy conservation is good for us, and all of us should embrace it. We are looking at all the options, and we believe that coal is a feasible option, but we must take into account the environmental issues and all the other impact analysis that ought to be considered. But countries have done that. They have had cheap source of energy, and we must also look at that option. And where we find it feasible and appropriate, I think that we should adopt it.
The Deputy Minister of Energy, John Jinapo, said government is considering coal and other cheap sources of energy with minimal or no environmental effect.
We have had interest from China, from Brazil, from India, and from other countries, and we have commenced engagement with them. We are studying their system, and if we find that suitable, I think that we should embrace it. We believe that by the end of the year we should have gas flowing, and we are working around the clock. Indeed, the Energy Commission is giving several licenses to solar companies to establish solar farms, and so we are making a headway. We'll keep that track.
He also said the gas would come on board by the end of the year to minimize load shedding.
Well, the consumer price index had seen another marginal increase from 14.7% in April to 14.8% in May 2014. The main drivers, according to the Ghana Statistical Service, were increase in utilities, transport fares, and housing prices. Government statistician Dr. Philomena Nyako said the depreciation of the cedi has also increased the cost of imported goods.
The May 2014 inflation rate is the highest since May 2010, with a monthly change of 0.9% compared to the 1.7% recorded in April 2014. The Greater Accra region recorded the highest regional year-on-year inflation rate of 16.1%, while the Upper West region recorded the lowest rate of 11.2%.
The food inflation rate for May 2014 was 8.0%. This is 1 percentage point higher than the 7% recorded for April 2014. For the non-food inflation rate, we have 20.0% recorded for May 2014 compared with 20.6% for April 2014. Now we look at the trend in inflation for the non-food inflation and the food inflation rates. We see that for the non-food inflation rate, and then in April 2014 it went to 20.6% and has dropped slightly to 20.0% in.
Government statistician Dr. Philomena Nyako said the year-on-year food inflation rate for May 2014 was 8.0%, a rise from the 7.0% recorded for April 2014. The year-on-year inflation rate of 8.0% is 2.5 times lower than the non-food inflation rate of 20.0%.
Greater Accra recorded the highest combined inflation rate of 16.1%, followed by the Eastern region with 15.9%. And we have the Upper West region recording the lowest combined inflation rate. When we look at the food inflation rate, we see that the Upper West region recorded the highest food inflation rate of 11.8%, followed by the Western region with 10.4%. When we come to the non-food inflation rate, we have the Central region recording the highest non-food inflation rate of 25.0%, followed by the Eastern region with 22.6%. Now, Upper West region recorded the lowest non-food inflation rate of 10.9%.
Renowned banker and president of UT Holdings, Prince Kofi Amoaben, has cautioned government to manage its expectations with regards to the revenue that will accrue to the state from the controversial 17.5% valued added tax on financial services. He explains that once the financial institutions begin collecting VAT, they are allowed by law to net off the VAT they pay, leaving government with only the remainder, which may not be as much.
First and foremost, the country needs revenue. And unfortunately, we don't have the structures that will let people be taxed directly. So the government tends to apply taxes that is like indirect taxes to be able to raise money. The financial sector, unfortunately, is seen by most people as a sector that is making too much money, but it is rather false. But in any case, the government says he wants to tax the banks, and that is what it is. Now, I think first and foremost, the important thing is how the communication is done, because it affects almost everybody. And almost all the time, I think we don't couch the communication right for people to understand. We also don't educate them well. The effect of this tax is actually not supposed to be borne in the main by customers of the banks, because first and foremost, if the banks now become VAT agents, in the sense that if you are a registered VAT merchant, it means you receive VAT and pay out VAT. So you receive VAT and pay out VAT. Before this policy, banks paid VAT with no refund. Now, what I personally see is that it means we become VAT agents, therefore we will offset whatever VAT we're supposed to be paying with what is coming in. I think the net effect should be in the region of maybe around 3% plus or minus 1%, so that the full 70% effects would not be borne by anybody, because we collect government's VAT and then we have to pay the government VAT, and therefore the difference is what we will pay the government.
Well, the Speaker of Parliament, Edward Duaja, who has described as legitimate criticisms against the President for failing to inform Parliament about his new ministerial appointees and choosing to make it public in the media. The issue was raised on the floor by Member of Parliament for Sekondi, Papa Owusu Ankoma, who was bemused by the actions of the President. The President has within the past couple of weeks announced a ministerial reshuffle, and by law he's supposed to inform Parliament about it, even if he decided to put it in the media concurrently. But the President failed to inform Parliament about his new nominations. Papa Owusu Ankoma stated the conduct of President John Dramani Mahama is unacceptable. Now, members of Parliament are sharply divided on the recommendation by the Constitution Review Commission giving free hand to the President to appoint the majority of his ministers from outside Parliament. President John Mahama has given his blessings to the amendment of that constitutional provision, but MPs, including those from his party, have vehemently opposed it. Majority Chief Whip Muntaka Mubarak says the proposal is not a practical thing. He says it is a wishful thinking. He would have wished that about 100% of ministers are appointed from Parliament. Majority Chief Whip Muntaka Mubarak is confident it would compel the best brains to vie to come to Parliament and cut down on costs. Minority Leader Oseche Mensah strongly disagrees. Now, here's what he thinks. Advocating for career parliamentarians as one of the surest ways of making the legislature strong. The bill suggesting the president appoints majority of ministers outside Parliament is yet to go to Parliament for consideration. However, Alhaji Muntaka is calling for an intense debate on that recommendation. Let's wrap it up with some flash stories. A national NADMO coordinator, Kofi Potifi, has said, but for the timely intervention of the National Disaster Management Organization, the impact of the recent floods in Accra would have been more disastrous. Last week's rainstorm claimed 2 lives, one in Tema and another in Dome, with dozens of others losing their properties. NADMO has been criticized for failing to come to the aid of the flood victims. However, its boss dismissed such criticism, saying the disaster could have been worse. Kofi Potifi said his outfit had been very proactive in dealing with the issue of floods in the country, especially in the capital. According to him, about 1 million people were to be affected by the floods, and they have been in constant touch with these people, some of whom they have tried to relocate. Potifi said the nation is challenged in terms of resources and that has also affected the ability of NADMO to raise funds for the necessary logistics. That's it for AM News, but we understand that protests in Sao Paulo have started falling apart. Benedict Owusu will bring you that detail in sports after me. My name is Kemini Nyamani Amana. Good morning.
So you know how it feels like when you've anxiously been waiting for something and finally the thing arrives. Well, good morning to you and welcome to the sports segment on the AM show with me, Benedict Owusu. As always, the sports segment is brought to you by Cowbell Milk. The 2014 FIFA World Cup begins today as host Brazil open the tournament against Croatia. The month-long tournament sees 32 nations compete for a place in the final in Rio on Sunday till 13th July. Thousands of extra police and soldiers will be deployed to ensure the matches get underway smoothly. The opening match will be preceded by a ceremony in Sao Paulo that pays tribute to nature, football, and people. Well, we still stay with the World Cup, which begins today. And remember, the Black Stars have touched down in Brazil. They arrived last night, and the FIFA delegation met the Ghana Football Association delegation led by President of the Ghana FA, that's President Kwesi Nyantakyi. So the Black Stars were the last team to have arrived in Brazil. And as we speak now, all 32 competing nations are in Brazil for the big kickoff, which is slated later today. Still in Brazil, and protesting Brazilians are likely to put on hold their series of demonstrations as the World Cup in Brazil commences today. Brazil has poured more than $11 billion into making the World Cup a success. But in the 12 cities where the matches will be played, construction delays have meant a last-minute rush to prepare airports, roads and stadiums. Some soccer fans in Brazil are least bothered about the various protests seen so far.
I think you're the best person to tell.
No, it's hard to say because we are not longer living here. But when I talk to my friends, the condition of the Brazilians is not good. And when it comes to the healthy transport, everything, because Brazilian people, they love football. They are so excited to have the World Cup here. But when it comes to the basics.
Basic needs.
Exactly, the basic needs, they are a bit upset. But I believe they are gonna, how can I say?
Enjoy it?
Yeah, definitely they will. Definitely they will.
Well, we still stay with World Cup related issues, but now to the camp of FIFA, and Sepp Blatter has indicated he wants to seek a 5th term as FIFA president and called UEFA disrespectful after calls for his resignation. He has been widely criticized over the damage corruption allegations have caused football's governing body. But the 78-year-old, that's Sepp Blatter, Swiss said he was angered by calls by his European counterparts for him to quit. This was most disrespectful thing I've ever experienced in my entire life, and I quote him. And Sepp Blatter, you know, he will be at Sao Paulo later today when that big opening ceremony kicks off. Meanwhile, he floated a new proposal for matches where managers would be allowed 2 challenges to refereeing decisions during a match with immediate television reviews. Well, now to the camp of England, and Dan Welbeck will be fit for the opening World Cup game against Italy on Saturday, according to Wayne Rooney. Welbeck picked up a thigh injury during training on Tuesday and missed Wednesday's session in Rio heat. However, Manchester United striker when Rooney moved to allay fears, his club mates would miss the game in Manaus. So the day is finally here, and the big kickoff is today. So you definitely get to hear more from me on this very show. So I'll join Roland and Mamavi later on as we discuss Brazil 2014. That's it for sports with me, Benedict Owusu. The sports segment was...